All right, it's starting. What's up, y'all? I brought on my guy Pookie. I brought on my guy Big Pookie Dog today to talk to y'all about Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese. I think what's been going on is really good for the sport. But what you also see is a lot of people analyzing what happened with their emotions. I don't even think a lot of people that watch the game actually play basketball, right? So a lot of the analysis is kind of off, right? And I was watching it, and I'm not a big women's college basketball fan, but I think this rivalry between LSU and between Iowa is real good for college women's basketball, and it can carry on over into professional basketball if the media plays it right. And we'll just start off with the elephant in the room. America loves a good rivalry. And the greatest rivalry in America is not the Lakers versus the Celtics or the Yankees versus the Red Sox. It's Black America versus white America. And what this rivalry does, it doesn't just give you bragging rights. What it also does is it allows people to reinforce a socio-political narrative. When whites win, it's like, see, we told y'all if everything was equal, we would beat y'all anyway. And when blacks win, we use it to say, see, if everything was just and fair and equal, we would be kicking y'all butts and everything. And what you've seen as, especially like last year coming into this year, Caitlin Clark is an exceptional player. She's what you would call in basketball a generational talent. And the media, they use her as a great white hope. They got behind her and they really pushed this narrative. The media can make or break a player. And they, she's a media darling. They got behind her. They pushed her. This doesn't mean she did her part, right? She came out her sophomore year. She won Big Ten Player of the Year. This year, she won Big Ten Player of the Year. She also won. I think it was the Naismith Player of the Year or something like that. The big prize during the women's tournament. But all the hoopla came down to basically one play. And that was during the LSU championship game versus Iowa, where LSU, they beat them. They beat them pretty good. They put a honey bun up on them. They put 100 points up on them. But there was this big frenzy over a player from LSU named Angel Reese when she did this hand gesture. Everybody's calling it the John Cena "I can't see you" hand gesture, and she did it in the face of she didn't just do it once. She did it a few times. She was, pointing to her ring finger, and she was also, waving her hand in her face like, you can't see me. And that's how she chose to celebrate. And, like I said, this is the greatest rivalry of all time, and whites don't like losing. Nobody likes losing. So the media went crazy, man. One ex-ESPN analyst called her an idiot, right? And I'm like, whoa, that was, like this. To me, this is small time stuff. This isn't nothing egregious, right? Maybe she over celebrated and she got a little bit too hyped. This is a championship game. This is the biggest stage of both of their careers thus far. But for some of the comments I seen was extremely distasteful, right? And it was distasteful for a reason. Caitlin don't just walk the walk, she talk the talk. She'll bust you up and talk to you all game, right? And, trash talk has historically been a part of the sport. So when Angel Reese, comes back and taunts her in a way, trash talks her in a way, I thought some of the comments was overtly racist, right? The idiot comment, and there was a few other comments from people who had once praised Caitlin Clark for, trash talking and then sometimes taunting her opponents. There was even an ESPN article that was basically, exemplifying how Caitlin Clark likes to taunt her opponents while she beats them. And it's just part of basketball. What did you think about some of the backlash that came from the gesture that Angel Reese made?
to me, man, I don't even think this was a rivalry or a big deal until Reese decided to taunt her. And I call it taunting because we play ball. When
Mm-hmm.
you talking smack in passing, you talking smack if you decide to go face to face. But if somebody is walking away and you following them around somewhere, it goes from talking trash to taunting. The game is over. I saw Caitlin. She got it in her face. Caitlin walked away. Reese kept following her. I think that's taunting. That's not talking smack or nothing like that. So if she wouldn't have never been following her around the court, I don't think this would have been a big deal. I think Caitlin would have took that. I think she would have took the celebration and took the L just to see her later. But when she followed around, did she get on the news and she want to talk about it? She want to speak on it. To me, I'm looking at Angel Reese as like a clout. She's out here chasing the clout. To me, I don't even think she can hold a candle to Caitlin's talent.
Well, we this the way college sports and high school sports and amateur sports is set up different, right? You got social media, but on top of social media, you got NIL deals, right? And so in our era, it would be like, man, you doing too much, right? But in this era, you actually can get paid for it, and you can get paid handsomely. So, like, there's a benefit to clouting. Clout chasing. How would compare what Angel Reese did to Caitlin Clark on a scale of 1 to 10? It was like a 2 or 3, right? I think the only reason it got blew up so much is because she did it to the Great White Hope. And I'm not saying the Great White Hope as if like Caitlin Clark can't play. She's generational talent. And to just be honest, from a basketball analysis, she's the best woman basketball player probably in a long time, right? I would go as far as to say since Cynthia Cooper, right? Cynthia Cooper, this was many moons ago. She used to dominate the WNBA on
I
the
want to hear
level.
that. Yeah, got
Huh?
the 10 first.
Yeah, you do. No. I'm just saying as like a 40-point
Cooper
triple
was
double,
everything.
a 40-point triple double on the South Carolina, which was most people had picked to win the national title. Like that's big, right? And LSU proved they ain't no slouches, right? Angel Reese had a 15 and 10. Now she did have 3 other players on her team that had 20 points, right? So like LSU was charged up and they came out and they was ready to go. But some of the stuff they say about Caitlin Clark is true. And the reason I got tuned in to her is because there was an article being written and her dad had said something about her being in amateur sports and there wasn't an AAU team for her to play. A girls AAU team. So they put her with the boys AAU team, and the AAU team won the state championship game. And she was so good that the boys was complaining. And I'm like, man, that's cap. That is cap, man. And when the media builds you up like this, I'm like, man, I need to tune in and like see this girl play. When I looked at her highlights, I was like, whoa, she's a talented player, right? For somebody like me that's not into women's sports, she caught my eye. So I understand. And Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, they have some history. A lot of people don't know. This is the class of 2020, right? Ranked at what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ranked at number 6, you see Angel Reese. Ranked at number 7, you see Caitlin Clark. On the ESPN Top 100, they had Angel Reese at number 2 and Caitlin Clark at number 4. So I know you might look at their bios, and they both got very stellar bios, right? 23, 15, and 2 ain't nothing to sneeze at. And when you look at Caitlin Clark,
Almost
27, 7, and 8, right? That's pretty darn good. But they've been competing for a while, and their competition didn't start this year. They both played in the Big Ten, so they both come out 2020. Angel Reese goes to Maryland. Caitlin Clark, obviously, she goes to Iowa. And by their second year, Caitlin Clark won Big Ten Player of the Year in Iowa. So I think this blood like goes back, right? Because at first I was thinking maybe Caitlin Clark was talking crazy to Angel Reese the whole game. And if that's true, that would explain why she kind of, rubbed it in her face when they won. That's something you're gonna do. Oh, you've been talking crazy and we won. Oh, I'm gonna show you. And it wasn't until the post-game conference that I said, hold up, something ain't right here. Because in the post-game conference, they asked her why she did it, and she said, I don't take disrespect lightly. And I thought she was going to talk about a personal situation that happened between the two of them. But then she said, I didn't like the way she disrespected Louisville. And I didn't like the way she disrespected my girls from South Carolina. Dawn Staley had a post-game conference when she really, explained the disrespect that she thought the media had. But then Reese pivoted and she said the media doesn't mind when certain people do certain things, but when we do it, we thugs and we this and we that, and I don't have the stereotypical look and they don't like my look. And right there, I'm like, oh, so it's nothing like personal that happened this season or this game. She's more upset at the media than she is at Caitlin Clark, and she kind of took it out on Caitlin Clark. And I agree with her. We live in America. We live in a racist society. Of course, they're not going to promote you, because, white men run these institutions. They run the media. They're never going to promote you like they promote one of theirs. And that's all fine. If I was Angel Reese, I would be feeling the same way, right? If here I am, a McDonald's All-America, was invited to the Jordan Classic game. Now, they never played in these games because it was COVID year, so everything got canceled. But if we part of the same class and this person is getting a lot of attention and I'm not getting the attention, I want to prove to this person when I step on the court that I'm just as good as you. That will put a chip on any competitor's shoulder. So I'm with her right there. It's just the point when you personalize it after the game was over. In the sports of basketball, that's taunting, right? And, it's trash talk when you do it in a Florida game. When you hawking somebody down, that's called taunting. And maybe the refs got caught up in the hoopla of it all, because normally they would break it up. Sometimes they would even give you a tech. But I thought she took it personal, and that's when I started to look into the background. This rivalry has been going on for a while, and I think it's going to go on for some time from now. And I think this is a good thing. This is a really good thing, right? They're both going to be in NCAA next year. They're not eligible for the WNBA draft. It's possible they'll both get drafted into the same WNBA class. So my advice to Reese would be, you might be laughing now, but it's a possibility you could be crying later. And I would just tell her, get back in the gym, because Caitlin Clark's interview, when asked about the taunting stuff, she said we both competitors, right? And I don't take it personal. I don't 100% agree with that. As a competitor, I think Caitlin Clark can't wait to see her on the court again. I think she can't wait, because that's just the competitive spirit. Of course, you're going to be like, nothing should happen to her. And a lot of the stuff that was said about her was straight bigotry and racism. But there's another aspect to this as well. I wanted to get your opinion on it. When they played the segment on ESPN, they let everybody go and Stephen A. Smith went last. And the women never brought up racism. They brought up sexism and misogyny. And they were basically saying, because you had a bunch of new spectators watching the sport, they were analyzing and critiquing women's sport in a way that wasn't necessary. And it's kind of my opinion that, okay, you want men to patronize your sport. You want them to buy tickets. You want them to show up to the game. You want them to, buy merchandise, right? You want them to tune in on TV and make the ratings go up, make the viewership go up, because that's going to be more dollars to the game. More dollars to the game mean the players is going to get bigger NIL deals and potentially bigger contracts and endorsements. But then when the men critique it, it's like, oh man, back up. We just want y'all to support us, but we don't want to be analyzed in a negative way. And I thought I already said this a lot. Some of the critique was racist, but some of the critique is just what they do when they watch a game, right? You analyze it, and sometimes you break it down play by play. What did you think? Did you think it was kind of like a feminist undertone to some of the pushback? Because it took for Stephen A. Smith to jump in and bring up racism. They was bringing up sexism and feminism, and I'm like,
I
wait.
think that to me, for my personal opinion, man, sports are not racist. It's a lot of things going on, but when it comes to sport, I don't even think racism even takes place. I think sports bring everybody together. Now, once you get to a certain talent level, talent affords you certain things. If you better than a certain player, then you get away with more things. You get
Mm-hmm.
more leeway. You get a lot of everything. But I didn't think things turned racist until Angela Reese pulled that card and started saying that type of stuff. And then once you do that, we're not even focused on the championship no more. It's all about Angela Reese and racism now. It ain't about Caitlin losing. It ain't about LSU winning the national championship. The whole focus has shifted to racism and Angela Reese. Every time I turn on TV, she's interviewing somewhere. So, like I said, man, to me, this was like, I don't want to use the clout word. It's kind of like wrestling, man. I don't want sports to turn into wrestling where you're going to have a character and then people are going to have themes. It's going to be a villain. It's going to be a bad guy. But to me, no racism in sports. It's all about talent, and whoever got the most talent can get away with the most stuff.
Yeah, I see things a little bit different because America is a racist place. Racism oozes into everything. But if you had to point to one aspect of society where racism impacted it is the least, is when those players actually take the court. Now, I don't know what happened to, like what journey you guys has took to get there. But once you guys is on the court, that's as fair as it's going to get in America. And uh, even Reese said it, right? Like her angst wasn't against Iowa; it was against the media's portrayal of Iowa. So the racism side comes from the media, how they portray one group against the other, and I mean, it's just what it is. I think they built it up that way because they know controversy sells and racism sells in America, right? And you got, Iowa, predominantly white team from a predominantly white state. And you got LSU. I don't even know if LSU has a white player on their team. I know the coach is white. But the it's the media's job to build this stuff up. And what I mean by you got to take the good with the bad is, do you want them to pay attention to you or do you not, right? Because we know the accolades that can come with them paying attention to you, whether it's good or bad. But I was also kind of turned off when a lot of the ladies who played the sport and who are now analysts didn't bring up that aspect of racism that took place off the court. They kind of shifted the blame onto the men. And I'm like, wait. So, they were basically saying Angel Reese didn't do nothing wrong. Caitlin didn't do nothing wrong. It's the men who are interpreting it wrong. And I was like, whoa. I think that was an easy scapegoat. And then there was this other underlining thing that even those who just analyzed that play or analyzed the game or just kept it within the realm of the sport, I think just the narrative that you can't critique women, especially black women, kind of played a role. So you seen people like Jamel Hill like really jump up and start beating on their chest. Angela Ross said everybody owes Angel Reese an apology. And I'm like, hold up. Even for the ones that just analyzed the game, that didn't call their names, that just analyzed the play, somebody got shouted down on Twitter for just basically giving a description between taunting and trash talking. And they like really was going at this guy. And I don't know if he said something in a previous tweet or if he said something on a previous show, but I'm like, if this is his only statement, and this guy runs a sports network, I'm like, if this is his only statement, this is in the realm of basketball. So, I think you just got to take the good with the bad. On a scale of 1 to 10, I think this is like a 2, right? I was more offended when Pat Beverly did the "You Too Little" thing to LeBron James,
That
right?
was disrespectful.
Yeah, like LeBron is one of the greatest players that ever touched a basketball. Chicago Bulls is irrelevant right now, right? They're trying to make the playoff. Lakers aren't too relevant right now. They're trying to make the playoffs as well, but we know what a LeBron James team can do in the playoff. And the fact that you took that stage to really try to taunt this man, I mean, but even so, I give Angel Reese a 2. I probably give Pat Bev like a 4 or a 5. He's a troll. I give Lance Stevenson when he blew LeBron James. You're like, that was egregious, right? I don't know if I could have took that.
Nah, that to me, that blow in the ear was good. And I think that was good. But Pat Beverly, man, the sports is turning into clown stuff, man. Like you have no business doing that to one of the greatest players of all time. You probably don't even average 10 or 12 points a game. It's just like, it's just ridiculous, man. But to go back to what you said about the women switching it to the men, women never attack other women, bro. Like whether they're wrong or not, it's always an excuse where maybe she's going through this or maybe she's going through that. But I have never seen a woman actually check another woman, correct another woman. The man is always going to be the scapegoat. If Angela Reese is doing something that need to be spoken on, well, nah, the man should have did it this way because the man's like, whoa, we ain't even got nothing to do with this.
You know, some of the stuff she said that she said like the media was saying they're ghetto and they're this and they're that, and I was just thinking like these are some of the complaints that the runner who wasn't able to make the Olympics was complaining about, and forget her name.
Where did they type that at? Where did they type that they was ghetto and we never heard about
it? Well, Don Staley came out and said it was some things that's being spoken by people who cover the sport, and I don't know if it's in the local like Louisiana paper or if, like I said, I wouldn't be the best person to like really speak to that. I know it happens though, but to like actually point to a certain article or who said what, I don't follow women's basketball like that. But I know it happens. But I'm not gonna lie, and this is not in defense of the media because we know what the media does, right? We know how they hype things up and how they'll put an angle on things. But it's like there is a level of accountability that has to be taken, right? And I'm not like, we know what they mean when they say we ghetto and stuff. But somebody wrote on Twitter, like, why are you mad that they calling you ghetto if you do ghetto things, right? And I'm like, let me see. So I went to her Instagram page and I'm like, well, maybe, just maybe if the media caught hold of some of the stuff that she be posting, and I think she has like a bikini deal or something, right? Because like half of her page is her in bikini. And one of the posts says yesterday's price ain't today's price. So I think she got a Calvin Klein, maybe a bikini modeling contract or NIL deal. But LSU, has an image, and the media is gonna run with that image, right? Like black women, just some of them, they like the hair, they like the lashes, they like the nails, they like certain things, and some of these conversations you can't have in public, right? If we was having this conversation in private, I would probably say,
when it comes to women, you can't have it in public. If this was about a man, we would have a discussion in public without even second guessing it. But if I don't even think the pictures, some of the pictures are bad, but just the mind frame and situations can give off the ghetto as well.
Yeah, like I know the media is tough, but people have to understand the reason why the men get paid so much. I mean, Sports Center does a pretty much 24/7 analysis of LeBron James when he's playing, when he's not playing, when he's hurt, when the NBA season isn't in, right? You got to pay the cost to be the boss. Before him, it was Shaq, and then it was Kobe, it was Jordan, it was certain people. They just analyze them way more than everybody else. They kind of just get picked out to like be that person. Right now, we see it going on with Westbrook. It doesn't matter what Westbrook does, the media is going to analyze it in a negative way for the most part. Kyrie Irving, he's starting to see that, and he's one of the most fortunate players. Usually young players don't have a career as long as he is when they're not elite as far as like winning titles. But now you're starting to see the media turn on you, and like, you got to take the good with the bad. They can build you up and they'll break you down. And, part of me was wondering, like, man, Reese is getting a lot of attention and this is going to be really good for her bottom line. But another part of me is saying, I wonder, does she have somebody in her ear, like on her PR team that's advising her? Because I do see like a few slips in her ear. I thought the whole Jill Biden interview, or the snippet that they put out, Crowder them interview post game with her, where she said she didn't want Jill Biden to come to the locker room because Joe Biden didn't pick them to go past the Elite Eight. And then she says they're not going to the White House because Jill Biden said that Iowa should come. Then she recanted that statement. And I'm like, but, so you just, and then she said, we'll go see the Obamas. And I'm like, I wonder who's advising her. First off, LSU has a president, LSU has an athletic director, and LSU has a coach. They'll make the decisions where the team goes or not. But this can come back and haunt you. And another thing I seen was a lot of people that jumped on black men when they said we not voting for Joe Biden is now saying it's okay because you have a black woman that says, like, forget Jill and Joe, right? And I'm like, okay, so is it cool for us to disregard and not support the Bidens, or is this just because it's not an election cycle, and when the election cycle comes, everybody get back on track? So you got that aspect, but I'm going to get back to basketball.
Yeah, you was about to have to go down a whole nother route.
Caitlin Clark had 30-8 in that loss, and she was in foul trouble in the first half.
Oh, hold up, Poop Dog. Hold up. When you said, does she have somebody advising her basically to capitalize on all this attention? Is that what you was trying to say?
No, that she won't dig a ditch that she'll have to climb out of, right? Like some of the things, like you just won, emotions is high, you're on top of the world, and you may say some things that could come back to haunt you or that you'll regret later. And because when I look on the other side, you can tell, like, I mean, it's white privilege. Like, Caitlin Clark gets the benefit, but you can also tell she's a little bit media trained and she has a good PR team, because all of her statements that she put out is perfect, right? And I don't know if, a 20-year-old woman is doing that without any, real assistance and team behind her. But on the other side, Angle Reese is saying some things and it's kind of unfiltered. And I'm like, who's advising her? I know her brother plays, so maybe she comes from a basketball family, but some of these interviews may not be, some of these interviews may come back. Some of the things she's saying, I don't know if it's, if you don't want to go to the White House, don't go to the White House. But I don't know if it's a good thing to publicly say that, right? You may find yourself in a position where you need some of these people that you are, disregarding publicly. So it's kind of dawning on me, like, is somebody kind of like advising her on some of the things she's saying?
If she like you touched on Kyrie is producing. Kyrie is an elite level talent that we probably haven't seen skill wise ever. So he's still able to still stick around.
Yeah.
If he doesn't produce, they can talk her way out of whatever she was supposed to be.
Give me like 10 more minutes. Yeah. She's going to have to produce, and that's why I said earlier that she's going to have to hit the gym, because I don't care what Caitlin has said during her interview about not taking it personal. I think Caitlin on the court is definitely going to take it personal. One thing I would have liked to see from Reese, like, let your game do the talking. And I know they won, But I think if you really want to prove to the media that, y'all kind of being biased and, esteeming her as the media darling and the best players, when we have other players in this league that's as equal or better, then the way you really do that and put an impact on the game is to go out there and like hold her to maybe 15, 20 points and score like 25, 30, 35 points yourself, right? That would have been huge. And that would have really sparked, like, is this a real rivalry? This may come back, I don't know if this is going to be a real rivalry or not, but Reese is one up on her. Now, the issue may come later if they face each other. And, Reese's team was stacked. I'm just not going to lie. LSU was head and shoulders better, like 100 points in the women's college basketball game and on championship night. Like, that's huge and that's big for the sport. I also think this may be a rivalry or it may not. I think people's careers get ended by like poking a bear, right? Poking on the wrong person. So I would just, hit the gym because Caitlin is coming, and I know, when it comes to basketball, Reese is gonna do, whatever she has to do to hold her own as well. So, that was just my analysis on things. I also think, you get so many viewers viewing this game because of the white versus black thing. I don't think, all of a sudden a bunch of people woke up and just said, I'm in the basketball, I'm in the women's basketball at that. I just think it was like that racial dynamic that played in America. Anytime you can have that racial dynamic, things get blown out of proportion. Even when you had like Conor McGregor versus Mayweather, when it's that racial component, it's just like that's what riles America up and gets people tuned in.
Do you think that race in sports is a bad thing?
No, because like I said, it reinforces a social political narrative. And when we have the chance to compete, it's an unwritten rule in our community, right? You ever get a chance to compete against a white person in the field, it's almost even. You never lose, right? It just is what it is. And I think they have the same unwritten rule on their side of the racial divide. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. I mean, like, society is what it is, right? And, we don't make the rules, we just dealing with it. So, no, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's good for the sport. And as you can tell, I mean, when you look at Bird and Magic, right, it revitalized the NBA. And this right here might be able to, get the WNBA where it needs to be if this turns out to be, something that's, what people think it may be. But no, I can't take race out of anything in America because I know the America that we live in. But I also don't want to overshadow the moment or give anybody a pass for some unsportsmanlike conduct, even knowing that, the media doesn't play fair and the media doesn't cover, people from different sides of the racial divide the same. I'm not like giving anybody a pass on that. In the end, I think Angel Reese, like, there's something personal going on between them. And that's great for sports and that's great for women's sports. You should have a chip on your shoulder if somebody thinks somebody else better than you in the game that you love and pour everything into. Just,
Man, I don't like me. I can't see none of this. I really don't understand it as far as it being a rivalry. To me, it just seems like it's one person that's being demonstrous, that's being loud, that's being vocal. And it's a hooper on the other side busting ass. And the other person is making all noise because they won. So to me, like, rivalry is when it's like somebody going back and forth, whether they talk or whether they uh, play each other a lot. To me, man, all of this is blown out of proportion because of one person over celebrating and now taking advantage of the new generation as far as clout chasing for contracts or whatever IBL deals, whatever those deals is you was talking about.
I think it's working, right? Because like I said, you had 3 players on her team that scored more points than her. But the only person that's been getting interviewed day in and day out and talked about and having everybody come to her defense or even getting that notoriety is Angel Reese. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I don't even know another player on LSU team, right? And there was three.
We're not even talking about the great game. We're not talking about LSU winning another championship. We're not talking about nobody but the loudest person that's on all the interviews.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of men who wanted to analyze this from a basketball perspective, but once it becomes a race issue and once it becomes a black woman issue, I've seen people just jump in line and they'll be like, yeah, I know, but this ain't the time. And when you break it down the racial divide, it's like if I analyze this, if I speak truth to justice, right? If I say what I really want to say, I'm gonna get canceled by black women, right? Because black women is basically saying Caitlin Clark walking past Louisville bench on the way to her bench is the same as Angel Reese chasing her around for a minute, trying to get her attention and doing this. And I'm like, it's not the same, right?
I was telling my girl, I said every guy that I grew up playing basketball with, some of us talk crazy, some of us don't. But if a dude was to follow anybody that we grew up with around like this and doing this, somebody would have got shoved in the face. It would have been a problem.
And that's up to the refs to stop that nipping in the bud as soon as it happened. And that's something I was saying. Like growing up, if somebody followed me around, you play your whole career to get to the championship game and you lose. And as a fierce competitor, just think about like Boston Celtics with Ray Allen and Paul Pierce versus Kobe Bryant. They know Kobe's the killer, right? Mm-hmm. And they beat him. And the first thing you do is you run over to that man and you big him up, right? Because you know his spirits is down and you brought the best out of me. You took my game to another level because I know you're a fierce competitor. You see this all the time. You see this at the end. Jordan hated Karl Malone then, but once we beat him, we ran up to him. I hugged him. You dap him up. Hey man, great game. And like this, it was a little childish. It was, but I'm saying as a 20-year-old young lady, man, I'm gonna give her a pass. Like I said, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most egregious, I give this about a 2. I thought the media blew it out of proportion, but at the end of the day, it was still taunting. Taunting is taunting, right? Mm-hmm. And just because Caitlin Clark did the same gesture, not as blatantly walking past somebody's bench or told somebody shut up, you down 15. I would have told them the same thing. I ain't gonna lie, you down 15 talking crazy to me. Like, come on, man. You need to be focused on scoring a 15-pointer. Yeah, if they got one. But it like a lot of people just didn't want to touch it. A lot of people I'm gonna just be hands off because once they made it a racial thing, and once it was basically black girl magic and y'all stealing their joy.
But who made it a racial thing though?
I think initially the media did.
How?
The way they covered it, right? And if you listen to Don Staley's post-game interview, if you listen to what Angel Reese said in her post-game interview, it was the depiction of one group of people, black people, as ghetto, as loud, as too hood, and it was a depiction of another group of people who was doing similar things up to this point, as classy, as Mamba mentality, as ambitious, as go-getters, as women that was fiercely competitive. So, like, the media built this up. And all I'm saying is that this is going to be the growing pains of women's sports getting bigger and being more appealing and being able to get those bigger contracts. Now, none of that gives an opposing player the right to take it out on another player that they're competing with on the court. Like I said, she should have did it like Don Staley. If your issue was against the media, take that up with the media. Caitlin Clark doesn't work for the media. Caitlin Clark doesn't write those stories about her. She doesn't write those stories about Iowa. She doesn't create those narratives. So I thought she, was pointing in the wrong direction. And in the end, right, they're both going to get another chance to be on the court and compete against each other. And maybe from years to come, like I said, I thought this was really good for women's sport. I don't think women's sports can sustain this. I think this is a Caitlin Clark wave because a lot of white people just jumped behind the Great White Hope and tuned in and built this thing up. Even with the like 9.9 million people that watched the championship game, I think 5.5 people tuned in to see Iowa versus South Carolina. So a lot of this big viewership was, people getting engaged, wanting to see Iowa play. Right. And like, you can go into that as well. But, in the end, I think it was a good thing. I think it was a good thing for all of the participants. And I'm looking forward to see if this is going to really become a rivalry or if this is just short lived. You got any final thoughts?
Yeah, man, I just don't think it's fair, like, to make it a race thing for Caitlin. Caitlin cold in the mud. When I see her shooting from half court, it's like, dang, so people only following her because she white. You get what I'm saying? Like this
No,
whole
I think people following her because she's a great player first and foremost.
yeah, because I mean, like she's transcendent as far as talent. Like when I first seen her, I never knew her name, but I keep up with girls sometimes, and I was watching highlights. I seen her shoot from half court, and I've been watching her ever since then. So I'm like, who is this girl? So by her making those statements and then everything being twisted and turned, it's kind of like, dang, we ain't even focused on the talent of the women no more, man. We done turned this whole thing into something else.
It did. It did go from basketball to basically, like, you can't critique black women at all, and you definitely can't say nothing racist about them. And while that's true, you didn't see this big uproar happen when Kyrie Irving was being villainized, by the Jewish community for posting a documentary. It's like, wow, we getting
boobies for backup.
Man, and it's sad because the same people, and that's why I say it has a feminist spin to it. The same people who are defending Reese, right? And I'm not saying she did anything egregious, but it was taunting, right? On the small level, was calling Kyrie an idiot, right? Shaq was calling Kyrie an idiot.
Facts.
He was like, and I'm seeing that a lot of people who jumped to Reese's defense didn't have nothing to say. They left Kyrie out there on the island by himself. I'm like, when do we get together as a community and like really pick our real battles? Not saying Kyrie was a real battle, but they was calling Ice Cube names, right? When he said don't, and I'm just seeing something here. Like, so are we being led by black women? Is it only like when black women get out there and like challenge this racist regime that we live in? Does black people?
Mama runs the community, bro. Mama runs the community. She runs black society. What she say go. And then number two, when you said that about Shaq, it got me thinking like, man, when a black man is trying to stand up for right, wrong, or whatever, we check them. We tails, whether they right or wrong. We jump. We the first ones to jump on them. When a woman does something wrong, women come to back them up and they fight tooth and nail. Even though they wrong, they fight tooth and nail. But men, we tear each other down whether we right or wrong. It's crazy.
Yeah, I seen that. Those who oppose Kyrie or just kind of ignored him and wrote him off. Those who oppose Ice Cube for not sitting down with the Democratic Party, even though he said he reached out to the Democratic Party, was the first people that jumped behind Reese when she was disparaging what Jill Biden did. And we know Jill Biden and Joe Biden is obviously racist. They've been racist their whole life, right? You don't marry a racist white man and not be racist yourself. But I'm like, wow, so now we can go against the Bidens, right? And that's just another aspect. So yeah, I'm gonna just end by saying this. I thought initially it was racist, right? When you calling her an idiot and bigging up things that Caitlin Clark did that Reese would or that other black women did, right? And you analyzed it and described it differently. But then I thought it was a covertly like black feminist narrative where you couldn't critique women and you definitely could not critique black women. I like I said, I want to see some more of this. I would love to see Caitlin Clark and Reese go at it again. But I don't believe what Caitlin said. I think she's gonna take this personal next time. We'll see though, man. You got any closing remarks?
Yeah, man, I just think it was a good game. Reese did her thing. Caitlin did her thing. Just keep it sports, man. Like all that other stuff, you taking the narrative off the beautiful game that y'all trying to build. Keep it sports, take that dub, and go get some money.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. Make sure you get paid. I'm out, man. Thanks for everybody for viewing, man. Let me know what you guys think, man. Did y'all think it was racist? Who do y'all think was racist? Y'all thought it was the media? Did y'all think Angel Reese went too far? Did you think Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark basically did the same thing by doing the same gestures, following somebody around for a minute, the same as walking past somebody's bench on y'all way to a bench? Let me know what you guys think. Thanks. Peace. I'm out.